Well, I've already committed to this. I personally believe that Israel has been fatally damaged by this conflict. Um, that, in order for Israel to survive, they needed to continue successfully the programs that they had initiated before October 7th, namely normalization of relations with Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, the Gulf Arab states, and then using that to create this joint economic enterprise, regional enterprise that links itself to India and Europe. This is something that Joe Biden had bragged about, the India Middle East Economic Corridor, a rival to China's Belts and Roads Initiative, that would invigorate the region and make Israel one of the major components of it, so that Israeli technical innovation and entrepreneurship would be able to marry itself with Arab money and create this economic engine that would be unbeatable. That was the goal. But in order to do that, Israel had to be a singularity, that there was no room in this for a Palestinian state. This is why the Abrams Accord, even though it talks about creating a Palestinian state, was really the death knell for the Palestinian state. It basically eliminated any potential of there being a Palestinian state. This is why October 7th is so important, because October 7th has actually brought the issue of a Palestinian state back to the front burner, and now it's irreversible. Israel will never get to that point where the world is going to accept there not being a Palestinian state. There will be a Palestinian state, and that's the end of Israel. You see, because Israel, as the Zionists envision it, cannot exist as part of a two-state solution. It's unacceptable. First of all, for there to be a two-state solution, you'd have to undo what has been bedrock policy on the part of the current sequence of Israeli governments, namely the West Bank settlements, the theft, the ongoing theft of Palestinian land, murder of Palestinians by Israeli settlers. I call them Brooklyn Jews because many of them come from the United States for the sole purpose of robbing and killing Palestinians to steal their land. These settlements would have to be dismantled. This process would have to be reversed, and this would create a near civil war or an actual civil war within Israel. Israel can't survive this process. This is a reality. The Israeli economy is in a tatters. In order to survive, I said there had to be this reconciliation with Saudi Arabia to create this new economic engine that brought Israel and Saudi Arabia and the Gulf Arab states together. That's not happening. Instead, Israel is being strangled to death. The Houthi blockade is devastating the Israeli economy. The ongoing war is devastating. All these reservists that they're going to be calling up, and there's talk now of another 300,000 plus Israeli reservists being called up. These are people who are supposed to be at work, at jobs. Instead, their jobs aren't being done. This war is very expensive. They've caused evacuations in the north and the south. Israel cannot sustain this economically. And even if this conflict came to an end, to get the investments necessary to get the Israeli economy up and running, you need stability that isn't going to come until there's a Palestinian state. Israel's not going to defeat Hezbollah. They're not going to defeat Iran. They're not going to defeat the Houthis. They're not going to defeat Hamas. And as a result, the notion of a peaceful, stable Israel is a thing of the past. Now, going forward, Israelis will always have to live looking over their shoulder, wondering when the next October 7th is going to happen, because the world is expecting an outcome, a Palestinian state that Israel is not going to deliver on, which means there will be more violence. Eventually, the Israeli population, there's a significant number of them who have dual citizenship, and they are going to recognize that it's better to live there than it is to live here, and they're going to start fleeing Israel. And I think when you get a certain percentage of the Israeli population to have fled, demographically Israel becomes unsustainable. And now we're moving not towards a two-state solution, but a one-state solution, which is really the only real solution, a one-state solution, which means Israel's finished, done, goodbye. And that's what I believe will eventually happen. I don't think Israel can sustain itself. I think Israel will self-destruct. Israel is its own worst enemy. It's allowed itself to be defined as, maybe as always has been, but they've been hiding, as a murderous, genocidal state with that has utter disdain for non-Jewish populations, calls Palestinians human animals, engaged in criminal acts. They've lost all moral right to exist. And so I think that's the direction we're heading. And I don't think it can be reversed. It can be, maybe Israel can be, sustained a little bit longer. If they sought peace today, and they changed their governments, we might, we might see Israel last a little. But again, economic ruin faces them. Political self-destruction faces them. They're going to have to solve the West Bank settler problem, and you can't solve that by allowing West Bank settlements to remain. They will have to be dismantled. And once you start talking about the dismantlement of the West Bank settlements, the reversal of these land grab policies, Israel will fall in on itself. There will be a virtual or a real civil war. And again, that's the end of Israel. People will start fleeing. And once Israelis start fleeing Israel, that's the end of Israel.
So here, a few things from me, again, not being an expert. So this seems to me like, if I can use this term, US will not bail out Israel, if this is the right term to use. Second is, this might lead to world conflict. Absolutely. And third, if they go, those people, if they go to United States or other countries, I think the closest, actually, they might go to certain area in Ukraine that might be designated for them, and they will definitely come to Poland. That's how I feel.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to go to where they come. I mean, Benjamin Netanyahu is a Polish Jew. A lot of the Israeli population are Polish Jews. And if they flee Israel, they'll go back to Poland. Ukraine, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what Ukraine is going to be in a year's time. How will Ukraine define itself? Who's going to be defining Ukraine? So it's difficult to give that, but they will go to where their passports allow them to go. That is, that's a certainty.
One more thing on this. We have a few more minutes, right? Because
Sure.
This is really, this is the topic I didn't know much about, but I'm learning this and I'm watching this unfoldment. Recently, just 2 days ago, Polish government said no more military help to Ukraine from Poland. We already gave you whatever we could give you, and Zelensky, of course, he said that Poland is weakening the efforts lately, and we need your planes. We need your planes. But what I'm thinking, and this is just my way of thinking, perhaps we are backing off with that support to Ukraine, because where support will be going to Israel.
But again, that implies that the Israeli problem can be solved with military support. With all due respect to Poland, you think you have more military equipment than the United States? What can you add to the Israeli equation that the United States can't? So Poland's not going to be diverting resources to Israel. Poland doesn't divert resources to Israel. The United States does. Germany did, but Germany's run out of money too. They've also shut down the spigot going to Ukraine. England's getting ready to have catastrophic collapse of their economy, requiring massive changes in how they do business, which is going to generate disruption amongst the population. So there's dreams of the building a brand new British army is absurd. You can't build a British army when the economy is collapsing. But the big thing is that's not going to save Israel, because the only thing that will save Israel is if Israel can agree to a two-state solution, and Israel can't agree to a two-state solution. Even if politically they could, the things that would have to occur for a two-state solution to become viable, the dismantlement of West Bank settlements, will destroy Israel in the process. So there's nothing that can save Israel. No amount of money that can save Israel. No amount of military equipment that can save Israel. I think Israel has fatally wounded itself by allowing itself to be identified as a apartheid state, as a state that practices genocide, where their leaders are indicted as war criminals because of this genocide, you don't come back from that. You don't.
Can they influence those in power in the United States to use nuclear weapons?
The United States isn't going to use nuclear weapons. My biggest fear about Israel is the Israeli nuclear weapon. Israel has said that it will eventually, as Israel devolves, I think Israel will start to lash out like a drowning man lashing out at would-be rescuers. And one of the things they'll do is, I think, trigger an Iranian response. Right now, Iran says that it will respond to the assassination of a senior Hamas official on Iranian soil. But to date, that response hasn't manifested itself, largely because I believe Iran has been placed under pressure by Russia and others not to do anything that would disrupt the BRICS conference coming up in October. So Iran is taking a back seat, but eventually Israel is going to do something that Iran will have to respond to. And this is where it gets dangerous, because Israel has threatened that if Iran strikes it in a significant fashion, Israel will take out Iran's nuclear infrastructure. And given the fact that much of this infrastructure is underground in facilities that cannot be taken out using conventional weapons, Israel would have to use nuclear weapons. And there's some things going on in Iran right now. I've long said Iran doesn't have a nuclear weapons program. And Iran, of course, said we don't either. And they said that, nuclear weapons are forbidden under Islam. Their interpretation of Islam, fatwas, have been issued by the supreme leader, both first Khomeini and now Khamenei, that say nuclear weapons are incompatible with Islam. But the thing about Iran and the way they practice the Shia faith, the notion of vilayat faqih, the rule of the supreme jurisprudence, is that Islamic law can be reinterpreted to reflect the reality of the present condition. For instance, you now have Iranian mullahs talking about providing religious interpretation of the role of modern communications on society. I mean, you can't go back and quote Muhammad because there was no radio or television back then. So there needs to be a reinterpretation of things based upon the reality of modern society. So old fatwas have to be reconsidered based upon current realities. Iran has said that nuclear weapons are incompatible with Islam, but what happens when the Israelis say, we are going to nuke you? And now this isn't a question of the existential survival of the Islamic Republic, a theocracy. There may be an opportunity for the reinterpretation of these fatwas. I'm not saying it's happened. I'm saying it could happen. Iran has positioned itself to where it can produce enough highly enriched uranium that can be used in several nuclear weapons in a matter of days. And there appears to be a move on the part of Iran to begin research efforts in technologies that are useful in a nuclear device, such as the high explosives, the detonators, and things of this nature. So Iran seems to be positioning itself into getting ready so that it can produce a nuclear weapon, the device, without the fissile core. So it's there, ready to be mounted on a missile, which Iran has been building. And then if Israel were to attack, Iran would produce this material, put it in these weapons, and then strike Israel with nuclear weapons. And then we're looking at a general nuclear exchange. Israel will be destroyed. Understand this, that it's a very small country. Three 20-kiloton warheads would be enough to destroy Israel as a viable nation state. Iran will probably produce more than three. Iran's a bigger country, but again, the devastation would be horrific. Israel would hit major population centers, killing tens of millions of people. This is a real possibility, which now gets us back to what the world should be doing. In addition to putting pressure on Iran to rejoin the JCPOA, the Iran nuclear deal, so that the world can have confidence that Iran is not pursuing a nuclear weapons program by having vigorous verification mechanisms, on-site inspection based. Israel has to be told that its nuclear program is off the table too. That they have to voluntarily disarm, let people in, dismantle these programs. And this is an imperative. I mean, it's a decision that needs to be made by the next administration. Unfortunately, neither candidate appears to be willing to confront Israel on the issue of its nuclear weapons. And as a result, the United States could find itself drawn into a nuclear war in the Middle East, which would be extraordinarily destructive and destabilizing.